Presidential candidate John Kennedy wants your vote in the Democratic primary. Here's why he feels this primary is so important.
I will be chosen. I'm running in 6 or 7 primaries in an attempt to demonstrate that, at least my views, and to express the hope that other candidates will run. I think what would be the greatest mistake would be for the Democrats to try to select a candidate who had not been willing to run in various primaries across the country in the spring. If he can't win a primary today in this state and other states, he can't beat Mr. Nixon in November.
And speaking further about the probable opponent in November, Kennedy expressed these ideas on how he will try to win the national election.
I would say it would be to run on the 2 ways. First, to attempt to demonstrate that this administration has not met its responsibilities either at home or abroad. That if Mr. Nixon is a leading part of this administration, which is one of his claims to the presidency, then he is involved in those policies. If he has not been a part of the administration and he has not agreed with the policies domestically, on the farm, in the cities, in relation to our schools, in our in our defense policies and our policies towards the underdeveloped world, then that should be stated.
What kind of a man will your vote help to elect? What does Kennedy stand for? What does he hope to do? What does he intend to change?
There are 17 million Americans who live on a substandard diet. There are 15 million American homes which, according to the last Bureau of Census, are substandard. 5 million homes in our cities which without plumbing. Anyone who says that this isn't the greatest possible time for vigorous and progressive action do not know what they look at, because this country is the defender of freedom in the United States and around the world. It's no accident that Mr. Khrushchev comes here, because he knows that we are his great adversary. That if the United States fails, if we collapse, if we do not move forward, the cause of freedom all over the world is lost. We have the great historic role, not granted to anyone since the time of Athens, 2,000 years ago, to defend freedom. And therefore, I think it's incumbent upon us to have a vigorous and progressive and vital Democratic administration in 1960 to take the leadership of this country. And I want to be sure that we haven't lost something important in this country, that we haven't gone soft, that we don't have so many cars and ice boxes and television sets, that we just look to our own private interest and not the welfare of the country. We who sit here today are the beneficiaries of millions of Americans who have fought and died and lived for this country to make it what it is. I will describe to you only one of them. A young American who was taken prisoner in the Korean War was brought out in front of his comrades, and he was asked by his Chinese captors what he thought of General George C. Marshall. General George C. Marshall, he said, is a great American. Immediately he was hit by the butt of a rifle and knocked to the ground. And he picked himself up, and they asked him the same question. What do you think of George C. Marshall? He said, I think General George C. Marshall is a great American. This time there was no rifle butt. They had classified him and found that he had courage. And the question is, where are all of us as Americans and as a nation going to be when we are asked to step out and say what we stand for? This, therefore, represents a great opportunity and a great responsibility for all of us who are Americans, who are Democrats, who wish to serve our country during the times that lie ahead. When the American Constitutional Convention met, at the back of General Washington's chair, there was a picture of a sun low on the horizon. And all during the consideration of whether the delegates would reach agreement on the Constitution, the delegates discussed whether that was a rising or a setting sun. And at the conclusion of the meeting, after the delegates had agreed to the American Constitution, Benjamin Franklin stood up, and he said, all of us wondered whether that was a sinking sun or a rising sun. Now we know. It is a rising sun. This is the beginning of a great new day. I am confident that the next few months and years can be a great rebirth and revitalization, that we are at the birth of a great new day in the history of this country and in the history of the Democratic Party. Thank you.
It's up to you and Kennedy. Vote Kennedy, May 10th.